Kia ora, welcome to Mrs McFee, day 3, and this will be the final time we read this story this week. Today we're going to be concentrating on some of that punctuation, understanding what it means, recognising it and saying it out loud. And then I've got a few word studies to do, and then a writing challenge. Okay. Mrs McFee went walking in Pickwick Park. Mrs McFee didn't see the sign that said, "Beware, take care. Don't wear colourful hats. Magpies are making nests." Some key punctuation here, full stop, and the ellipses, which means there is something more to be told or said. And of course it is this sign that the writer wants you to be reading. Let's have a look in here. Again, these are called what? What are they called? That's right, ellipses. And there is this to follow on. Okay. Right. And then watch the full stops as well, which means that we need to stop. Let's read. A magpie bird came swooping down. Squawk, squawk, squawk. It snatched the hat from Mrs McFee. It snatched that hat for its nest in the tree. And here we have some speech marks. So this is in telling us that the character is actually directly saying something. So we try and put on a little bit of a funny voice or a different character voice for that, which helps the reading to come alive. Mrs McFee was cross. She shook the tree and she shouted, "That's my hat, you silly bird. Give it back to me." And on this page there is another piece of punctuation called an apostrophe. Can you see the apostrophes? There are actually 3 on this page. Mrs McFee was cross. Oh, there's one. She shook the tree and she shouted, "That's my hat, you silly bird." Oh, there's another one. "Give it back to me." But the magpie bird went squawk, squawk, squawk. Mrs McFee went home for a new hat. Then Mrs McFee went walking in Pickwick Park. See if you can help me out on all the ellipses, the speech marks, and the explanation marks. Mrs McFee still didn't see the sign that said, "Beware, take care. Don't wear colourful hats. Magpies are making nests." A magpie bird came swooping down, going squawk, squawk, squawk. It snatched the hat from Mrs McFee. It snatched that hat for its nest in the tree. Mrs McFee was really cross. She shook the tree and she shouted, "That's my hat, you silly bird. Give it back to me." But the magpie bird went squawk, 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 squawk. "What can I do?" groaned Mrs McFee. "My beautiful hats are up in that tree." A wild, wild wind came rushing, whoo, and snatched those hats from out of the tree. Mrs McFee was furious. She shouted, "My hats! My hats! You silly wind! Give them back to me!" She's really getting very excited and furious now because there are at least 1, 2, 3, 4 exclamation marks. Wow, It's really animated language. But the wind just went woo, 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 wee. Mrs McFee stamped her foot and she said, "I'll have to get another hat." Mrs McFee went back to Pickwick Park and then she saw the sign. "Beware, take care, don't wear colourful hats. Magpies are making nests." "Oh, fuddle-duddle-dee," said Mrs McFee, "silly me." And she ran from Pickwick Park. And that's the end of the story. But we're going to go back to this page actually. There are some really interesting things on here. So first of all, we're going to have a look at a diagraph, yep, and it's the diagraph of shh. So if I put this up here like this, you can see that the sound made by SH together is a shh sound, and we have the word shook. She shook the tree. And there's a few more on this page as well. Can you spot any more diagraphs with the word shh? I'm pointing to one. She shook and shouted. So let's put these up here. It goes like this. Shouted. And she. There you go. So those words start with that letter sound there, that digraph sound there. And there's some more. So focusing on that sound again, we're now going to actually change it. So here we have the sound shh, which sounds the word out shook. But if we take that sound away and replace it with, say, another letter or another sound, then we can have book. Can you think of any other letters or sounds that can go in front of book? How about look? Now it's your turn. How about, and one for this one, and one for this one. First challenge of today. I wonder whether you can write out a sheet like that with as many different words as you can, with this ending of the word changing the very front of the word. Give it a go. See how you get on. Okay. And finally, from Mrs McFee and myself, there is a writing challenge. In the pack that you received at the beginning of this week, or on Wednesday, whenever, I'm not quite sure, there is a challenge for you. Imagine where the hats ended up. The hats that were blown out of the tree by the wind. Where did they end up? Can you write a letter to Mrs McFee? So imagine that you have found them and you know that they belong to Mrs McFee. I should imagine Mrs McFee's hats are quite famous actually. And tell her where the hats have ended up. Okay? You should be able to find that sheet in your pack. But for now, I'll see you later, and thanks for all the effort you're putting into it. Thanks for watching. Bye.